Hola amigos and welcome back to another episode of La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host Matthew Human here at Finca Vida Verde as always. My guest today is Sarah Wu, our village witch, Sarah Wu. Sarah was our first ever podcast guest and I'm very excited to have her back now that we're in full swing. Sarah is a clinical and community herbalist. She's a teacher of herbalism, permaculture, and spiritual ecology. She's a producer. She's our friendly village witch, and she's also one of my neighbors here at Taco Tal. And she was like I said, she was our first ever guest. So we're gonna revisit and see what she's been up to. She's been up to a lot. So stay tuned. We hope you enjoy. Sarah Wu, welcome back to La Vida Verde podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
Sarah was our very first ever guest on La Vida Verde podcast and also recently our guest host. So thank you so much for that was really fun.
It was
no
fun.
one's ever interviewed me on my own podcast before. So as I said, you were our first guest. We have our also guest Willie here today. You were our first guest in a time you were willing to take a chance on a fledgling podcast that was had no real I had no idea what I was doing, and you helped me. You have so much confidence. I love your confidence. You're such a great speaker, teacher, there's, like I said, there's a confidence. You're confident. You have a lot of wisdom. I've always appreciated that about you. You're one of my best friends, Sarah.
Thanks.
I mean, honestly, you know this, and it's. I wanted to have you back because that first episode, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Because we were just shooting the shit and trying to make it work.
And I'm going, and Sarah's like taking over because. So I'm gonna do
because my Leo ascendant allows me to do that.
A proper interview. Leo ascendant, really?
Uh-huh.
I have something in Leo like that.
You see all this hair? Obviously, the smile.
So let's start with what's new? What's going on? Last we talked was almost not quite a year ago.
It was last spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been up to? You went to Italy for...
Yeah, well, I've been, interestingly enough, beginning this migration pattern, which has been new and also pretty exciting in many ways. I never believed in nomadic life. That just wasn't my style. I know It works for some people, but I'm also a Taurus moon, so I'm a very I need a grounded, cozy home space. But I really love exploring ecosystems and culture, and I'm learning a new language again, which is so fun. And for me, I had this dream of a migration. And so now I'm trying to set up a migration pattern, which has been really pretty amazing. And when I think about it, it's La Pura Vida and La Bella Vita. And it's wow, La Bella Vita or La Dolce Vita. And it's pretty good.
Right, so you've been in Italy. Where in Italy?
So we live in central Italy, in the Marche region, Le Marche, which is a little less known to many folks just because it's not on the tourist trail. A lot of people go to Tuscany or they go to,
Rome.
Cinque Terre or Rome or, Amalfi Coast or Venice, whatever. But Italy has 22 states and it's pretty gorgeous. So where we live, it's actually at the exact same altitude as here and exactly 1 hour inland. Yeah.
Wow.
In the center, which is
Very
interesting.
similar.
Very similar.
Climate is similar,
climate,
different?
No,
Not
the
quite as
climate's
tropical.
It's not tropical at all. It's Mediterranean temperate. But beautiful. So Marche is central towards the north, but they're not the north. And we're right across from Croatia on the Adriatic, and it's just stunningly gorgeous. It's one of the areas in Italy where there's still primary forest, wolves, waterfalls, gorgeous clean rivers, definitely agriculture because the country is full of lots of ag in different ways.
Olives.
All of it. Olives.
Apples, I imagine.
Yeah, I'd say for the trees, a lot of
raisins.
Grapes.
Grapes.
Grapes, yeah. Grapes, olives, chestnuts, all the annual crops. What's interesting is that Italy actually has some trees that are 4,000-year-old chestnut trees. So imagine that these are some of the oldest trees in the world that are and they're gnarly looking, like they've seen it. And, but it's just incredible when we think about, permaculture and that we're planting fruit trees and we're planting for future generations. These are trees that feed civilizations.
Right.
Like that kind of blows me away, Also things like, peaches and persimmons and
Oh my God, I love
quince
persimmons.
and figs, a lot of figs. We had a really fun time harvesting
Oh,
those
I
this
love
year.
figs. Figs and
Yeah.
persimmons are the things I miss the most of my temperate climate. For sure.
Berries.
Yeah.
Yeah, blackberries. We have a ton of wild blackberries all over. But
And
yeah.
you guys did the Future Origin, was that what it's
Yeah,
called?
Origini Future, which means like future origins.
It's a festival.
It's a mini festival. So this was our second year. The first one we did in the hometown of my sweetheart. His name's Giovanni Ricci. And
Hola,
Jovi. And so Origini Future we hosted for the first time in his hometown. We actually had 1,500 people there. It's a bike riding culture, and so everyone was able to like cruise up on their bicycles and very new there. Like I'll admit it, like it's a funny thing to say, and pardon me for anyone who might be watching this who's from Europe, but living in Costa Rica, we have seen a lot, especially in the environmental movement, in the New Age movement, and all the branches of what that looks like, from cacao ceremonies to ayahuasca to, sexual liberation to all kinds of things, environmentalism, permaculture. It's like we kind of forget like where we are and who we are, because sometimes when you go into other areas, you see that people are like pretty behind.
You feel that way about that area of Italy?
Kind of about Europe in general. I'd say they're like a solid 20 years behind us.
Wow.
Maybe 15.
Like
in the environment, in the environmental movement, socially, and new age stuff. It's all like very new for a lot of people there, and so yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I'm over exaggerating 20 years, but I feel like I'm in, like how I felt, when I first started learning about this stuff 25 years ago. Yeah.
So that's a major opportunity, like to wake people up, but it's such an old culture. Like maybe they're used to like
tradition. Yeah, very traditional. And remember that they all come from the original imperialism and the original monoculture and the original like
Rome.
hardcore colonizers
right.
came from these areas. And so they're people that have major oppression in their genetics.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow,
so
that's
they're
so
like
crazy to think
so they're
about.
very stuck in tradition. I'm not stuck. They're in their tradition.
They're
deep in it. And so it was really beautiful to like bring these like mini festivals with like, the things we do, like art installations and elixirs and talks, and
they really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you see people like, wow, and like feeling that connection. While still having like great music and reggae bands and like a shamanic band playing lots of cool like world instruments. And
so you said you did it the first year in his hometown.
The first year in his hometown, and this past year we just did it at our house. At our house. We hosted at our house,
which is a piece of land.
It's a piece of land, so it's 2 acres. It's called Ka Inti, and they use this a lot in our region when they do C apostrophe before like a name of a home, so it kind of refers to like a house project. And so it's Ka Inti, which of course Inti is, the god of the sun. And at Ka Inti, like we've built many different terraces and have planted a whole bunch. There's 2 wells, this beautiful little old stone house. And so we hosted this year there, and we had like maybe close to 300 people.
Excellent.
Which was really fun. It was overnight, so folks camped, and we had really nice music. We didn't have any, little like market village kind of a thing. We didn't have any workshops this time, or not really. We had some like ecstatic dance workshops and like kind of like somatic, less educational. We want to do that next year, is try to make it 2 nights and bring in some workshops.
That's what I was going to ask you. So while you were there, are you also teaching when you're in Europe?
Yeah. So this year we did art and herbalism, which was really new and not new for me. Like my very early educational experience was focused on the fine arts and focused on illustration and learning all of the skills. And then I transitioned in university to art history, because I really feel so passionate about like archetypes and symbols, and I love it. And I love seeing culture through the visual realm. And so I was like, I want to do something different. Like I'm always doing these like trainings, and I love the trainings and getting people skill based and getting people learning how to work with the plants and getting people to understand and download permaculture perspectives.
And herbalism.
And herbalism. Well, regenerative herbalism
Right.
is what we call it, right? And so I was like, I want to do something a little different. And we discovered this beautiful place called Val di Ricarte, which is a country home, and a country home bed and breakfast. It's kind of like a bed and breakfast in Italy, right? And so they can host people, have food, this kind of stuff. And we met this beautiful family, two couples, well, a parent couple and their child and partner, who are, adults and elders, and artists and chefs in the two couples, which is really cool.
Amazing.
Really cool. And
So you start doing
yeah, and
stuff with them.
the woman, her name's Stella, and Stella is, our age, and she was a sculptor that then moved into natural dyeing and textiles. So she has a garden of color there,
Awesome.
and they're really known for their food because they take all of the traditional, Marchigiano, like the Marche traditional foods, and they kind of twist it, and they twist it with like herbs and putting different plant dyes into things, so it's like an experience to go and eat there, and the place is really lovely.
This is a restaurant
cute.
they have?
It's called a country home, so it's like their house. They live there. They've got a big house, with like different rooms. I think they have like 3 rooms you can rent, a little like sala, like a community living room,
Yeah.
beautiful library, studios, and then like an outdoor space. And downstairs, which would I guess be like their living room of their home, is the dining room for their restaurant. So it's out of their home. They're only open certain
Cool.
hours. Yeah, it's really, really cool. So we met them because we went to go eat there, had heard about this place. And we're like, wow, it'd be so amazing. And she teaches workshops, and she works with this other woman, Loretta Stella, who they call the Witch of Monte Nerone. And she's an elder herbalist who's been like, she was a part of the movement in like the 60s, Back to the Land Italian movement, and then stayed on the land and like has been, living in the mountain, like learning the plants. And
so you were teaching
so
with
we were
them?
teaching,
You, like,
yeah,
mixed
they were
your
the guest
education.
correct. So I had this really fun time like developing the curriculum of like, okay, well, we're gonna see through the eyes of the bee one day. So I brought the Mediola honey from here, and we did the honey in the eyes, and it's like beautiful meditation. And then we made a medicinal honey with like the local flowers, and then we had like a drawing exercise of like, okay, we could do this different ways. We can either pretend that we're just like bathing in pollen or we can look through many lenses, or I showed them images of how bees actually see, because they see trichromatic like we do, but they actually don't see red spectrum. They see ultraviolet. So yeah, so pinks, blues, little bits of pinks, but blues, greens, and ultraviolet.
Well, and ultraviolet, we don't even see.
We don't
what's
see
going
it.
on. We
Yeah,
don't know what the hell's going on.
I
in that
know. And
spectrum.
so, that was like one exercise. Or we built this beautiful mandala together, where we each chose like numbers, and then like we built this mandala, and then we like sketched it. We did experiences with like plant spirit medicine drawing, and then like straight up botanical drawing. We did natural dyeing. We did plant prints, nighttime drawing. It was amazing and so fun. So I really loved like bringing that love of creative arts into the practice, because I feel like I'm crafty, but I don't like make art like that anymore.
Well, and this is good, because like that's the thing about going to a new culture, creating. It's like you're evolving.
Yeah.
It's bringing new things that you can then integrate into your courses here and like wherever you are.
Yeah,
Just integrate.
exactly.
So speaking of courses here, you're back here now. You've been back for what, about a month?
2.
2 months?
Almost.
Really?
Almost.
Well, we're happy to have you home. I'm always grateful, excited when you come back.
We were away for 4 months this year.
And Giovanni's still gone. He'll be back soon.
Yeah.
And you're doing some local classes?
Yeah, and so, it's interesting because, I reach out and I reach in, right? And students come from all over the world. I'm very used to having like this international base, and then just seeing also our population grow here, and some of the things we've talked about before. It's like you and I are so fortunate that we've had so much experience learning from our land and learning from these ecosystems. And a lot of the new folks coming into these areas, like they don't actually know anything about our ecosystem. They probably have other experiences. Yeah. Maybe they know something about permaculture, or they're environmentally focused.
Yeah.
But it's like the plants and the ecosystem and the way to like really understand this place, because that's who we are as humans. We're of place as well, and it takes time and energy to get to know place. And so I really enjoy helping people to know their ecosystem, you know? So yeah, so this season I decided, because there's just like so many folks around here, and
Sure.
I think that it would be really wise for people to, you know, come and do plant walks. And,
Right.
you know, so we're doing like 3, I think, plant walks, which are like going to be plant walks, talks, and tea. So
Awesome.
like 90 minutes of like learning some of these plants that we have here. We're going to be doing 2 medicine making, so skill building, 2 medicine making workshops. We're going to be doing herbal first aid. So it's like the
Cool.
basics of like how do you build your herbal apothecary, because I did first aid for it's not my specialty anymore, but like when I lived at Punta Mona, for
Right.
example, we were doing a ton of first aid. And then we did a herbal first aid training for 5 years with my teacher Seven Song and
Right.
my partner Lala Palmieri, and we trained a whole bunch of students.
Right, and you at Envision, you guys had the herbal.
Oh, yeah.
You were the only clinic there. It was like
big.
It was awesome. I think it was one of the best things about
was.
Envision. I'm sad that they got rid of it, but
Well, we didn't get rid of it. We just
shifted.
it's shifted a little bit.
Right.
We would like it to come back, but it's a whole thing. But yeah, it was amazing, you know, like teaching people just how to work with plants in an acute way, right? Because with herbs, it's like we have, just like most philosophies, it's like we can zoom out and look at things from a really macro perspective, really big, you know, like meta perspective on land relationship and, you know, the eco-spiritual thing that we have here in being humans on the land, or we can zoom in and reduce it, right? And that's where our current economic, social, political, healthcare model is reduced, right? Earth is a machine.
Right.
And so, but in herbalism, we can practice very meta, you know, or we can start to go into like more holistic kind of allopathic practices, or we can really zoom in and do reductive practice, which is actually herbal first aid. It's just bringing relief in that moment, cleaning the wound, mending that wound, helping that person to heal up. But we're not like going into case histories and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like we're
Right.
bringing relief.
Right.
So yeah, we did that,
Okay.
and then we're also gonna be doing an art and herbalism
Oh, you're okay.
locally.
Good.
We're gonna do 1 day of art and herbalism with Celia from Sanctuario. Celia
She's
is
awesome.
a young, amazing woman. She's an herbalist. She's an artist. She's a great permaculturist and gardener.
And a natural builder. She
And a
did
natural
my
builder.
shower wall.
Yeah.
An amazing job.
She's like all skilled. She's a really amazing human being.
And she was from Punta Mona, like
Also.
one of those Punta Mona people that she already came with a lot of passion. But then being there, it helped her to blossom. Like
It really did.
coming to a place like where she was like able to like really express herself, and like even then moving here after Punta Mona closed, like coming here, like
Finding new levels of empowerment. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
I think it's super. She's awesome.
Yeah, so her and I will be doing the art and herbalism together.
Great.
And then there's also within the locals classes, if folks want to do like a community herbalism, which is an 8-part class.
So when do those start?
January 3rd.
January 3rd. So this is a good time to like sign up.
Yeah, if you're local and you're really into plants, like, or if you want to learn, you know, you don't have to. It's the classes are for all levels. So you know, I've had students come in who are been studying for a very long time, but you're gonna get to know your ecosystem, and this is what's so amazing about working with plants and working with soil and, you know, just all of that water, is that you're constantly a student.
Well, and it's
so
true. It's
fun.
like a lot of, you know, and I know a lot of the, I know so many of the locals. Like I love this community, and I really, really do. And you know, it's true. Like not everybody's in different levels of connection to this place. Some people have lived here longer, some people less. Some people are more connected to plants and less connected to plants. But like there really is like that lens. Once you know, it takes a long time to learn it, or you can go deep with like a course like yours and like get that knowledge, and then you see things through a different way. It's like that thing that you would just walk past, suddenly you see it and you're like, that's medicine. I can do that with this. I can use that for this, or like, you know, because yeah, like yesterday I had a friend here helping garden, like chopped down my mint, and I'm like, dude, like I've been cultivating. He's like, oh yeah, okay, like anyway.
Right, but that's like where it takes you need to be informed.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just
like,
a level. It's just a lens
yeah.
that he didn't have. He was just like so. So, anyways, I think it's really great that you're doing it. And so, where can people sign up for that?
Well, I don't actually have it on my website just because it's locally focused. So I guess you could get in touch with me through Instagram if you're watching. And then I
Which
can
is
put.
what?
I am sarahwu.villagewitch.original
You are
with the
Sarah
blue
Wu
check.
or just Sarah
No,
Wu?
at sarahwu.villagewitch.original.
Okay, dot original.
Dot
Because you've
original.
had I know you've had a lot of
I've had some
fakes over
scammers.
the
I know.
years.
Hello, beloved. I feel called to doing a reading for you.
I've gotten a bunch of those. I know Adriana had that too.
Oh gosh.
Like,
But I got a blue check, so.
okay, good. So the one with the blue check is
the one with the
real
blue check.
Sarah Wu. So that, or if you're local, you can WhatsApp
Yeah.
through the group. Contact me. I'll put you in touch. And I hope you guys do sign up because I think the more locals that know this kind of information, the better we all are.
Well, it's community resilience.
Yeah.
You know, like yesterday I was writing about herbalism being political. I don't know if you saw that. It's really good though because
I did.
it's about governance and like power structures, right? And like right now we exist in a power over structure that tells us what to do and we're punished if we don't do it. And that's just the macro easy way to look at it. Herbalism directly contradicts this because it's an empowered system that actually takes power from hands that dole to us, you know, and it allows people to have this knowing and empowerment of how to care for themselves, how to care for their families, how to be present for their communities. And herbalism for me is directly plugging us back into the world soul. You know, it's like modern humans, especially for those of us who've been so, you know, influenced by the capitalistic system, which is most of us, extraction capitalism, and I have a lot of philosophies on capitalism, but extraction capitalism has really unplugged us because that's the nature of how it works, right? It wants us to be dependent on outside sources to create our sense of security, where herbalism means that now we're relying on our internal and our relationship with place, which then is going to be cultivating this sense of like, I can also do this with you and with you and with you together to create like a healthy space, you know. And it's also taking like the resources and it's keeping them here, you know. It's like, how often do we depend on our resources coming in from far and then our resources go way far out? And so herbalism also in so many ways, I call it capitalizing, you know, like as much as you can look into the eyes of the people where your resources are going and coming from. And herbalism is creating a more resilient community model right there, which I find is very like radical and important, you know, to be aware of. So we are creating not only like health resiliency, but we're also creating economic resiliency and community resiliency and awareness of, you know, soil conditions, awareness of water, awareness of like just that we are humans here living with the ecosystem, not imposing ourselves upon it. Because, for example, there are things like bacterias, there are things like parasites, there are things like snakes, there are things like other types of animal bites or injuries that can happen. And it's like, what do we do at that? We just rely on being like helicoptered out of a place. And sometimes that's necessary, you know, like I'm an integrated person. Like I believe in the modern medical system. You know, you're in a car accident or you make a wrong move at the river and crack your head open, I'm not going to be able to help you.
Right.
You know, I'll be able to help you recover.
Right.
Right? And that's really important. Or like I'll be able to help you keep your body strong so you can fight off bacteria and you can fight off parasites and viruses and these types of things. But we do have our limitations as working with plants and natural medicine.
Okay, so sign up for the course. All this to be said. You've been so busy. Every time I see you, you're in the middle of writing. You wrote an ebook. You're writing a course.
Lots of courses.
What was the Being Witch? You just released your Being Witch.
Thank you for that one. Yeah, so this was an interesting one, you know, because I'm an herbalist, right? And that's been my star. But my other star that helps to brighten the herbalist star is my personal spirituality, right? And my spirituality and identification of which is also pretty radical and a statement unto itself because of this deep history of misogyny that we've experienced and for way too long. and
Should men in the valley be scared?
no.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to collect your penis and hang it on a tree. Don't worry. Or I might. No. So, but witch is not about man or woman. This is
Right,
also
men could be a witch too.
Men can be witch too. So, I really, this is something I was born with that I always felt, but it wasn't until I read The Spiral Dance by Starhawk. Also, when I was 19, like you, I was like 19 when I had like my head cracked open, and
Yeah, oddly enough, that's right when you get out of the mainstream high school system. It's like if you're raised in mainstream, it's like you stop being spoon-fed all this dumb information, and suddenly it's like, oh, now I can learn things I actually care about.
Yeah, and if you have like the inklings of defiance or, other ways to think, it's like it just. So anyway, so I read The Spiral Dance.
Which we all do, by the way.
I read The Spiral Dance, when I was 19 years old, and that is a manifesto to the goddess written by Starhawk, and that was like, whoa. It was also the first time that I started getting into medicine plants as well. So they were very parallel for me and my environmentalism also. And so the witch, yeah, so that started to come up, but then it actually wasn't until 2012 when I had a journey with ayahuasca that really allowed me to experience the pain of women in the world. And I relived being tortured as a witch twice, stretched on the rack. And that was really, really, really
During
heavy.
your ayahuasca ceremony?
It was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Is this the one? I was actually trying to think of this the other day where Steven was like hanging out with Jesus.
Toucans and rainbows and chocolate kisses.
Steven was at the same thing with Jesus and Bob Marley, and you were like being
tortured as
a witch. Wow,
that's not
so
funny.
Intense.
But yes,
it's so intense. I'm feeling it.
It was really intense. But that gave me the power. That's what he was singing. That gave me a lot of power to step out of the broom closet, right? And so I really stepped out of the broom closet, and I started.
Broom closet.
And I was just like, I'm gonna get on that broom and like
Mom
go
and Dad,
for it.
I'm a witch.
It's a thing, especially if you're raised in certain cultures. Like, many people might feel afraid of that. And so I started teaching about this. It was always like, undercurrents of like my teachings. And then I decided like, fuck it. I'm just going to start talking about it like really open, because it is so important. And it's not this like fluffy fad, black cats and pointy hats and the craft shows. And granted, I used to love practical magic and, those types of things.
Wicca.
But Wicca's a religion.
Yeah.
Right? Wicca's an organized religion where like witch is an identity and a spiritual path.
Right.
And so it's a class, a talk, a musing. It's a 13-part series. It's about 4.5 hours.
Wow.
So each unit is, like 15 to 35 minutes long, of me talking about things like witches non-binary, talking about the history of the witch craze, talking about it being popular now, but it shouldn't be a fad. Meaning it's really important, actually, that it's popular because people are branching out into their spirituality. They're coming back to the earth because this is the essence of what witch is it's people of the earth, right? And
yeah, wasn't it originally mostly herbalists? Like they were
midwives, healers,
herbalists. Like
yeah,
string them up.
Pretty much. There's a lot, so I talk about that. But then also I go, and I didn't know I was actually going to go this way so much, but I actually also went pretty political because I was talking a lot about decentralization and power over systems and community and ethics and things like cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation, and how do we actually behave in a way that is regenerating our humanity and reweaving and I use this metaphor a lot too, is like reweaving our humanity back together, right? And talking a lot about like intersectionalism and those. So it's definitely not like a class where you're gonna, and I talk about symbols also and the importance of symbols and archetypes. I really love that. So that's another unit. And right ritual and magic. It's called What the Spell and Right Ritual. And so it's mostly, I'm not giving you spells. I'm talking about how to practice in a way that's ethical, So yeah, it's really nice, and it's live on my website. So it's, what I did recently is thinking kind of more holistically is that I teach all the time in person. And so I really wanted to create opportunities for people who can't pay for a flight, pay for a retreat, and take off weeks of their time to come and
it's
study.
an online course.
They're online courses.
Excellent.
Yeah. So evergreen.
And your website is
villagewitch.org.
villagewitch.org. So if you're interested in what it means to be a witch, sign up for Being Witch. Excellent.
And then there's another class that you might like, which is Plants of the Craft. And that one we look at the plants of wisdom, the holy plants, the master plants, and sacred plants. And then I look at a few like plants of love, plants of abundance, and plants of protection. And that's actually a class that covers 77 plants.
Wow.
And yeah.
Yeah, I saw you when you were like doing it. I was like looking at the slides going like, I'm amazed at how you can create such magic, and because you have such wisdom, but you're also a designer. You're also sitting there designing it all yourself, and that's like, I would get overwhelmed.
Right.
And
well, when my daddy used to ask me, "What are you going to do with that art history degree?" Here I am.
This is actually, by the way, the first time I ever knew you studied art or
History,
art history.
really?
I honestly,
Really?
I thought you had a marketing background. Because you were marketing when I met you. That's what you were doing. We were marketing. But I didn't know you were like an artist. It makes sense.
No.
It makes sense philosophically. Yes, you are the soul of an artist. So we're what else? We've got you've got your herbalism course coming up in March.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I just want to take a minute to promote this because I love it. I love all the people. Every time you've ever had, I've hosted your group here twice now.
Yeah.
And I love them. They're always
Herbalists,
amazing.
I have to just say, herbalists are some of the best people in the world.
Yeah.
Like, really, because they're, and permies too, you know, because it's just like, it's people of the earth. It's people who have ingrained into their being this willingness to help and to connect and to make people feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, like that's really what it takes to be a good herbalist. It's not about like knowing all the plants or knowing all the formulas, but it's about really bringing people into safer spaces and making them feel like, yes, you're heard and I'm going to help you. You're not alone in that, you know? And so the humans that come, I just like, I'm always just so in love with every single student, you know? So, so this class that we do here at Finca Vita Verde and also at Casa Colibri, which is my house. So we're hosted here, meaning that you sleep here, you have your breakfast here, and then folks come over to my house for class time and lunch and dinner and
organic
fires.
breakfast.
Delicious, all of it.
Homemade.
And
coconut milk with coffee.
And
fresh coconut milk.
I really like this class because it's, I would say, 90% hands-on. So it's like the only time we're really like class time is when we're speaking for you to understand what you're doing and why. You know, so if we're talking about like plant metabolites, really important to know if you want to make medicine. You have to understand like how you're going to extract something. Right. So very basic like plant chemistry, meaning basic meaning that you're going to get it. You're not going to sit there like in chemistry class with your, you know, so it's hands-on. We're doing, you know, everything from like tinctures to water extracts to oils to hydrosols to also food as medicine. So we're doing things like sauces and broths and sprinkles and ferments. And then we're also doing, you know, we do some tea ceremony and cacao. And then we also bring it into, you know, fire ritual and herbalism and practicing like smoke wands and, you know, water cleansing. And then we even do some herbal body care. So it's like full spectrum of how to work with the plants. And so students that come out of this, like you should just be ready to go. You got your notebook, like making medicine, whether it's for your family, whether it's like in community herbalism that you want to practice, or maybe you're even considering like starting, you know, something a little bit more standardized, like a business, you know, you can think that way too. And then the deep class that we also have, which isn't here, that one's in Guatemala, which is a 200-hour, this is called Permaculture for the Herbalist Path. And this was an original curriculum that I wrote with a lot of input and additions from Lala Palmieri in the like the curriculum format and in the manual. I wrote a 250-page manual for it. Wow. And this one is a 200-hour training, and this is regenerative herbalism. So we take all the philosophy of permaculture and we infuse it into body systems, into how to practice as an herbalist, into how to make medicine, into community design and social permaculture and sitting with people in clinical setting. And it's a really amazing training. And we're in Guatemala, so we also get like in Atitlan, in Sununa. And so people get also just like these beautiful field trips to like these Mayan permaculture projects. It would just like, it just reminds you of like the beauty of humans working with the land.
So, And all this is on your website,
Yes.
villagewitch.org.
All on
When
our
is
website.
when is that one?
So that one will be next October.
Oh.
No, first is the medicine making apprenticeship. It's called Lifestyle Herbalism Medicine Making Apprenticeship, and that's the end of March
Right,
into
and
the first
it's the
here.
best time of year to be
Oh, it's
here.
gorgeous.
The river is amazing.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's mixed, like camping, there's some glamping. If you needed to drive in, you could. You know, there's a lot of options in our valley here.
Yes.
So.
So that's the next one. Of course, we got to mention Envision because that's what we're both. Yeah, I will be working with you, hosting the Village Stage, emceeing. Sarah curates a lot of space at Envision. A lot of it's behind the scenes. So you might not even know that she's responsible for it, but like the red tent, right? But your macro.
all the educational spaces. So it's
Right.
5 stages, over 300 hours, and over like 110 talent or more.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I curate all of that.
Plus all the staff, like all of us who are
Oh
working
yeah,
with
and
you.
I've got a team of like maybe 20 people that are in our workshop production.
Right.
You know, so I'm one of the founders, but also producers of the event. And so, the 5 stages. It's the Village Stage. Then there's Village Witches, the Red Tent, the Sacred Fire, and the Temple. We used to have 6 stages, but we actually dissolved one and brought El Circo Stage, the performance stage, in.
So if you like a little bit of education with your party, Envision
It's really good.
Envision is amazing. It's
Yeah.
it's 7 days of pure like wow. In all
Beautiful
ways.
production,
In all ways.
community, great food,
Yeah.
great music, the beach.
It's a cool event.
It's a really cool
It's a
event.
cool event. I'm
I
really
love it.
happy to be part of it every year. So thank
Yeah,
you for
me too.
bringing me back into it.
Yeah, and I love it too that we're working together this way.
Me too.
That was new for us because you're always coming another way, and I was
I'm
like, why
usually
don't
the
you?
musician. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I prefer
But
actually
bringing
like
you into production.
I like production. It's actually something I have a lot of experience in.
Yeah.
So, starting with January, so come see us. First of all, Monkey Medicine New Year's. Sarah will be there with her elixir bar, which is what are you doing? Just quickie on the elixir bar.
Functional beverages. So
Functional
herbal
beverages.
infused, medicinal, delicious cocktails with or without alcohol. Depends on what you like.
Right. Locally with local herbs,
Yes.
like wildcrafted. by
Local
Sarah Wu.
herbs, imported gin.
There we go. Okay, that's the way to do it. So New Year's, Monkey Medicine New Year's will be at Ecovia San Mateo. You can buy your tickets right now. You can go to my website, fincavitaverde.com, to click the New Year's tab for that to buy tickets. And then the local courses, if you're local here in the Machuca Valley, you can find us at the where it'll be here. You can get a hold of me
You
or
can get a
Sarah
hold of Human.
through.
You can get a hold of me if you're in the groups.
Through
Like you can find
Instagram.
my WhatsApp through the groups, or you can through
Right.
Instagram too.
January 3rd. That starts
Starting.
January 3rd. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of courses.
And they're daytime, 2 to 4 hours a piece, so people can register for one. They can take
You
them
gotta get
all.
that schedule online somewhere. So
It already
people-
is
Okay, where?
in all of our groups.
Okay, we got to repost it then. We'll repost,
I'll
it,
repost it.
with this podcast.
Great.
And then the functional
Medicine making herbal apprenticeship, end of March.
End of March. And then
Permaculture for the herbalist path.
in October in Guatemala.
Yes.
So find everything at villagewitch.org.
Yes, and if you want the
Org.
ebook, it's just signing up for the mailing list, and so that's 13 Plants of the Village Witch, and it's beautiful materia medica.
Right.
It goes deep into therapeutics and ethnobotany and ways to practice. You can get that for free just by signing up for my mailing list, and then I've got a ton of evergreen courses, and I've got 3 more coming out before the new year.
This woman does not stop working. Sarah Wu, it's an honor.
I do sometimes.
Yeah,
I didn't work
sometimes. You're
August.
Right. Let's see a movie or something.
Yeah.
It's been an honor to have you back on the
Thank you
podcast.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being our first guest. Thank you for being our last as of now.
Recent.
Most recent. Yes, it will not be our last. And thank you for watching. This is La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Human. My guest today was our village witch, Sarah Wu. You can find this every Tuesday. We release episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Finca Vida Verde CR, on Facebook, Finca Vida Verde, on YouTube, where you can watch this and see us live, not live, but see us in the playback, La Vida Verde podcast. You can listen on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. If you want to support us, we really would love your support. It is patreon.com/La Vida Verde podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. I know you're probably busy. Got to go do something else now. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Pura vida, amigos.